is she talking about? She didn't know. The fuck? It's the royal family. They're the original racists. They invented colonialism. That's like marrying into the Budweiser family and going, they drink a lot. This motherfucker's invested in slavery like it was Shark Tank. You didn't Google this? Going on Oprah, I didn't know. I had no idea how racist they were. It's the royal family. You didn't Google these motherfuckers?
One comedian finally said the quiet part out loud, and the entire comedy world took the hint. For years, everyone treated these two like they were off limits. Soft punches, careful wording, nothing that could cause real fallout.
I wanted to know how brown the baby's gonna be. I'm like, that's not racist. Because even black people want to know how brown the baby gonna be.
Then Chris Rock stepped onto a Netflix stage and voiced what millions were already thinking, snapping the spell in a single moment and making them fair game overnight. Didn't Google them? That excuse collapses the second you say it out loud. This is the most documented family on Earth. Centuries of history, scandals, traditions, and headlines translated into every language imaginable.
Going on Oprah, I didn't know. I had no idea how racist they were. It's the royal family. You didn't Google these motherfuckers?
So the idea that she never once typed their name into a search bar doesn't sound innocent. It sounds impossible. And Chris Rock wasn't the only one who wasn't buying it. Then he landed an analogy so clean, it spread instantly. Simple, savage, and airtight. But the real damage came next. The story that dominated headlines, the palace question about the baby's skin tone, had been framed as the ultimate proof of a rotten institution. And with one sharp comedic turn, Chris didn't just joke about it. He punctured the entire moral panic and exposed how easily a messy moment can be repackaged into a global victim narrative.
The fuck is she talking about? She didn't know. The fuck? It's the royal family. They're the original racists. They invented colonialism.
Once he proved you could question the storyline and survive, the floodgates opened. The moment the taboo broke, the pile-on became inevitable because everyone had been waiting for permission. And now that someone said it first, the rest of the comedy world lined up to take their shot. Think about how insane the positioning became. Britain doesn't want them back, and America doesn't want to keep them. 2 countries, billions of people. And somehow they're treated like international hot potatoes nobody wants to claim.
President Trump also announced a new trade deal with the UK that will reopen British markets for American companies. All that Britain demands in return is that we keep these.
That's not just comedy. That's cultural rejection turning into a running gag. And then there's the part no one can get past. What he actually gave up. Not for an A-list global icon. Just an actress most people didn't even recognize until royalty entered the story. That contrast is what keeps getting twisted deeper in every joke. A prince trading legacy for something that, to the public, didn't look remotely worth the cost. When late-night TV can label a prince as an unemployed immigrant in prime time.
He has announced plans for a spin-off to the hit series Suits. It will focus on Meghan Markle's character's struggle to balance her legal career while also caring for an unemployed immigrant.
And nobody even flinches. That's not a random punchline. That's the moment you realize public sentiment has fully flipped. The respect is gone, the protection is gone, and the culture has decided he's just another target. If you miss the lifestyle content, here's the problem in one image. She's presenting repackaging pretzels like it's a life-changing domestic secret. That's the tip. That's the transformation. And when the audience sees someone who lived in palaces with staff, then sells move snacks into prettier bags as wisdom.
What is the #1 question that mystifies scientists?
Is there life on another planet?
Oh no, why does Meghan Markle make her own pretzel bags? They don't know why.
That's interesting. She takes it from one bag and puts it in another bag.
It's another bag.
And that confuses people.
It doesn't read as aspirational. It reads as parody. The optics get worse the more you zoom out. He's a prince, royal lineage, global recognition, history baked into his name. And now he looks like a logistics guy for overpriced jam and boutique honey. And then the memoir drops. Hundreds of pages, intimate details, personal trauma, and oversharing so extreme it turns the most privileged man alive into a walking punchline.
Turns out Prince Harry and Meghan Markle will still get paid millions of dollars for doing absolutely nothing. And that's just by net.
Even their cute branding becomes ammunition. The initials, the nicknames, it plays less like romance and more like a manufactured label, like they're trying to sell a luxury product instead of living a life. And that's the core irony. They keep doing interviews about how much they hate attention, while doing the very thing that generates attention.
Meghan Markle has finally revealed why she and Prince Harry call each other M and H.
And he'll say M and you'll say H and your friends say M and it just is a thing.
It's a thing.
And do you both love it?
Yes, and I like nicknames a lot.
The jokes hit harder because the audience around them actually works for their money. Auditions, pitches, careers built over decades. So when Millions for Nothing lands, it lands in a room full of people who know what effort looks like. And for Britain, it's personal. They watched him grow up, forgave years of mistakes, and then saw him publicly torch his own family and country.
What could it be? A mystery for the ages.
So when British comics went in, it didn't feel like teasing. It felt like payback. That Nazi costume keeps resurfacing for one reason. It's permanent. It lives online forever, immune to rebrands and redemption tours. And no amount of documentaries, interviews, or awards can erase a photo that cleanly contradicts the moral positioning they've tried to adopt since. The Netflix series was supposed to win people over, make them sympathetic, make the world understand. But for a lot of viewers, it did the opposite. The performative tone, the branding energy, the camera-ready intimacy, it didn't feel like a love story.
Meghan Markle is, of course, a lifelong feminist, which she's demonstrated by marrying a prince and giving up her job.
Harry and Meghan say they'd now like to split their time between spending your money in the UK and spending your money in Canada.
It felt like a product launch wearing romance as a costume. And that's the turning point. 6 episodes can take a neutral viewer and transform them into someone who finally understands the frustration. Not because one joke convinced them, but because the content itself did. The more they explained, the less believable it felt. Here's what makes it hard to sympathize. Basic royal protocol gets framed like trauma.
Royal family, right, if you can imagine, they're like our Kardashian. Prince Harry is very much our Kanye. He occasionally dresses as a Nazi, and he f***ed up.
But if you're dating into the monarchy, etiquette isn't some shocking surprise. It's literally the job description. The disbelief comes from watching simple expectations treated like persecution. And when someone like Kelly Osbourne, who grew up inside real chaos, calls you dramatic, it lands differently. Because she's not speaking from theory. She's speaking from a life where dysfunction wasn't a headline. It was home. Her bluntness cuts through the PR fog. You were handed platforms, money, attention, opportunity, and still managed to produce almost nothing but complaints.
I watched the Harry and Meghan Netflix documentary. Now, I'll be honest with you, before I watched it, I was not a fan of theirs. But now I've actually heard their side of the story, I hate them.
That's the contradiction nobody can ignore. A man who once wore a Nazi costume trying to re-enter public life as a moral voice. The gap between past behavior and present branding is so wide, it practically writes the jokes by itself. This is why they can't move on. Because conflict is the product. Without the feud, there's no fuel, no headlines, no content, no podcast hooks, no book tours, no truth to sell. The drama isn't collateral damage of the brand. It is the brand.
Started off and they're making interesting points about racism and misogyny. Then they start calling each other H and M, and I just thought, oh, do f*** off.
The warning about the kids is where it stops being funny. No cousins, no extended family, no roots, just isolation. And when someone who's watched celebrity relationships implode for decades says, this ends badly, it doesn't sound like gossip. It sounds like pattern recognition. The Queen understood something they never did. Dignity comes from restraint. Silence can be strength.
starts describing this one date with Meghan as the night, let me quote you here, me and M pulled the pin on a fun grenade. I actually started rooting for Prince Andrew.
You don't win public sympathy by explaining yourself louder and louder. You win it by doing the work, staying steady, and refusing to turn every grievance into a performance. Here's the real issue. They don't just want privacy, they want agreement. They want the world to accept their version of events without skepticism, without questions, without anyone noticing the contradictions. And when people don't comply, they try to flip the script and label the critic as the villain. That game is wearing out.
Harry says, how do you explain to someone who just started dating that they have to curtsy to your own grandmother?
How do you explain that you bow to your grandmother and that you will need to curtsy, especially to an American? Like, that's weird.
And I'm thinking, maybe just tell her that your grandmother is the fucking queen.
When satire reaches the point where an entire episode becomes a cultural verdict, the message is clear. You're no longer a celebrity story. You're a cautionary tale. The worldwide privacy tour wasn't just mocking them. It was summarizing them in one idea the public instantly recognized as true. The contradiction is the whole joke. Privacy while filming documentaries, doing magazine covers, posting curated content, collecting awards, and staying camera adjacent at all times.
I think Harry is a fucking twat. I think he's a fucking twat. He's a whining, whinging, complaining, woe is me, I'm the only one that's ever had mental problems.
They don't want normal life. They want credit for wanting normal life, while still taking every possible path that leads to attention. That regret line hits because it feels too believable, trading one kind of controlled nonsense for a louder, messier kind. The humor works because it echoes what people suspect he thinks late at night, when the branding stops and reality shows up. And then, the puppet satire gets uncomfortably specific. The entitlement, the control, the mask slipping.
You've got a great life, you've got a beautiful family, you're so much in love. Move on, get a life, move on. And they just can't seem to, because their living is by telling their truth on the royal family. That's how they make their...
Played for laughs, but landing like a mirror. The dynamic isn't just funny celebrity parody. It's the suggestion of a relationship where image management is constant and compliance is part of the routine. When content mysteriously disappears, it doesn't erase the story, it amplifies it. The internet treats suppression like a signal flare. Try to wipe something away and suddenly more people want to find it, share it, and preserve it. So where does it leave them?
Should she go to her father? Yes, she should. I didn't talk to my father for 18 years. He used me in his companies and all of that. Millions and millions I had to pay because my father got me in the crap. But the situation is, when he was diagnosed with Alzheimer's, I went to him and took care of him.
On paper, deals collapsing, projects stalling, executives publicly frustrated, and a brand built on a name that can't substitute for deliverables forever. The documentary got attention, often from hate watching, but the output since then has been thin. And the big passion project products, jam, honey, pretzel bag energy, have turned into shorthand for expensive celebrity vanity projects that solve no real problem. Zoom out, and it all points to the same conclusion from every angle. You can't demand privacy while pursuing attention. You can't sell hardship from luxury. You can't preach values you don't live. And you can't control a narrative when your own actions keep contradicting your words. Because contradiction is what comedians feed on, and this story is overflowing with it. What makes this different isn't jealousy. It's disbelief. People watch the interviews, the documentary, the book excerpts, the awards, the speeches, and the story kept shifting while the privilege stayed obvious. And once the public stops believing you, there's no PR move that fixes it. Because the problem isn't messaging. The problem is the gap between what you say and what you do. Until that changes, the jokes don't end. They multiply. At this point, the only question left is personal. Which punchline hit hardest for you? Because whether it was stand-up, late night, or animation, the culture has already delivered the verdict. And this story clearly isn't over yet.